Well, so I don't really like filming after the fact. And as much as possible, I really try to get everything done the day off. But Wednesday and Thursday were such terrible days that I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I am filming this after the fact. You're seeing it on a Wednesday, of course, because you guys know I'm a time traveler. But yeah, I don't particularly like to do this, and I keep trying to figure out ways to get better at this. But anyway, let me just, I guess, tell you what happened, and we'll take it from there. So, as you guys know, if you've been watching the videos, last week we were very, what's the word? Free with our nutrition, and for the most part indulged in things that perhaps we shouldn't have. And I definitely had more sugar than I have in the past, and so I guess one could say that I sort of went off the deep end a little bit. And getting back to it this week has been really difficult for, sort of like sugar addiction reasons, I guess, would be the easiest way to put it. And so getting back to it Monday and Tuesday was difficult, but, shit really hit the fan on Wednesday. Let's see if we can sort of figure out like what happened. We had some errands that we had to run. And so we went out, and I didn't really have anything for breakfast. And I think that was the first mistake. We didn't have anything for breakfast, and then we go out and we're walking a fair amount. I would say we're probably walking for a good, like 30 minutes one way to run this errand that we needed to do. And then on the way back, it's getting close to noon. At this point, we've been walking for most of an hour, and I'm starting to get really hungry, but not just getting hungry, but there's a specific kind of feeling that happens when, excuse me, when I haven't eaten anything and I'm doing a certain level of exercise or physical exertion, if you will. And then thinking about needing to have lunch, but knowing that I really should go home and make lunch, not just have lunch somewhere out here. And I don't know, at that moment, it's almost like everything hits me at once. Like, it's not just the physical hunger aspect of it, but just psychologically, it hits really hard. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a deep sadness, a deep depression. This idea that my life is over because I can't eat the things that I want to eat. And it's just, I don't know, I have a difficult time describing it because it feels so, like such an existential, like a deeply existential negative, it's deeply existential and negative. That's basically what it is. That it goes beyond anything of like, well, if you're hungry, just eat some nuts or, It's so deep. It's almost like, and I guess really the only way to really know what I'm talking about is if you have experienced this yourself. So here I am, we're walking, and Jolima and I are talking, and we're talking about like, well, what should we do for lunch? And at that moment, the realization that not only do we not have anything at home ready to be cooked because we hadn't prepared for it, but also like not knowing what to make, knowing that we had to like walk or come all the way back and go and do some shopping and cook something, and feeling like I don't know what the fuck to make. It's such a strong thing, such a strong emotion, feeling so tired, so exhausted and defeated and just sad. And it's almost like I find it almost impossible to keep everything contained to that moment and just know, well, you're just hungry. I was thinking about those the Snickers commercials. It's like, oh, you're hungry. Just have a Snickers. Sure, that would probably work. I'm guessing it has to do with like, I don't know, your blood sugar levels dropping or something, but I don't know exactly. I'm trying to speculate specifically about that feeling, because it goes so much farther than any physical sensation, and it's purely emotional and psychological. And as we're walking, I was like, I just want to drop and cry. I just want to sit right here in the middle of the street and just cry, because I don't know what to do. I'm so miserable. And luckily, Jolima had a brilliant idea, because she always has the brilliant ideas. She said, why don't we just get something from the food by weight place? And if you guys don't know this, Argentina, or I shouldn't say Argentina, Buenos Aires has a lot of, especially down here, like downtown, has a lot of like food by weight places that they look like Chinese buffets in the US, except that you don't really eat at the place, but it's like a buffet, and you go and you get a little container and you serve whatever you want, and they have lots of varieties and a bunch of different stuff, and then you weigh it and that's it. But they do have like a lot of different types of foods and stuff. Some places are better than others, obviously, and some places their food is actually tastier than others, but for the most part they tend to have good enough variety. So you can go bad. I mean, like, they have a lot of like bad stuff, but you could also do like good stuff. And so we decided to go, we were walking by one not far from the apartment, so we decided to go into one of these places. And so we did. And here's where I would say I was mostly good. And then some of you might say, what are you talking about? That was perfectly fine. And so I ended up having mostly like chicken and vegetables. That was, it looked like it wasn't cooked it's not like deep fried chicken, breaded or anything like that. Just chicken and vegetables. Probably had some like soy sauce or oyster sauce. Nothing that we're going to worry too much about right now. And I did indulge in a little bit of rice, and that's where things start to get really, I don't know, like there's a part of me that there's this duality that exists within me, where there's one part of me that really wants my nutrition to be perfect, and we're talking about down to the milligram. And then there's the other part of me that wants to say fuck it all the time. I always compare it to, it's almost like I have, and I think I've talked about this before, I have a parent and a teenager living within me. And the parent wants to do everything right, and the teenager, and I apologize if there are any teenagers who might find this offensive. I hope not. I don't mean it that way. But, just that rebellious nature. I was a rebellious teenager, so I'm thinking mostly about my own experience. But just like, I don't want to do it. And just the fact that you want me to do it makes me want to do it even less. I want to go against it. And so there's a part of me that says, like, the fuck, you had like one spoonful of rice, who gives a shit? And then the other part of me says, well, but we shouldn't be eating rice because, the glycemic index and, like all this shit. And also, sometimes it doesn't really help some of the comments that I get because I think that, and I welcome everybody, obviously, and I welcome all comments, but I think that for the most part, whenever there's like a video that is seen by like a wider audience than the core of you guys who watch most of the videos, they'll get sort of like a limited perspective of what I'm trying to do here. And they'll come in with, oh, you're doing this wrong. And somebody posted a comment, I think it was yesterday, that was like, well, if you want to fail at what you're doing great, type thing. And so, he was explaining something about, anyway, the point is that, sometimes someone might come in and sort of see a limited version, like they watch 1 or 2 videos and then they want to address all the shortcomings, all the failings that I'm having. And, most of you guys who watch daily know that some of these things that we're doing are not for a lack of knowledge, like empirical scientific knowledge. There's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of contradictions out there. But for the most part, I've read a bunch. It's the mental health aspect of it that we struggle with. And I think that this probably resonates with a lot of you, because it's not like we don't know what food to eat, or what foods to eat, or like what's healthy or not, or how to. It's not necessarily a lack of knowledge in that way. Is getting yourself to do it, and do it in a way that gives you a certain measure of quality of life, as opposed to feeling completely miserable all the time, which is what happens a lot of the times with me. And so there's always going to be a certain level of difficulty when we're talking about being able to make the right choices, and that tends to come with the propensity for going to the extreme. So it's like we're going to one extreme where like, oh, the diet has to be like super perfect, and the other where we say, well, fuck it, and then I'm just going to indulge in fast food, which it's ironic. It's a little interesting that one can go from one extreme to the other, but it's not that unusual. And I think a lot of you will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So I sort of felt bad when I was getting the rice, getting back to what I was actually talking about. And then on the other hand, feeling like, so again, it's just, I share these things with you guys because they're on my mind. Like the whole point of doing this is to just show you what goes on in someone's head as they're trying to do this. Because for the most part, again, you only see people who are already succeeding, or who already have something figured out, or they talk about, like, oh, it was a tough mentally it was difficult. But I've always been more interested in the details. Like, what about this particular day? And that's why, again, I'm trying to get back to, or I'm not get back to, but I'm trying to be able to share more of that. And I don't know how to do it. And so, I'm sorry, I'm talking about something a little bit different, but I want to be able to share more of that, and I still don't know how to do it. I'm not very skilled at this, at being able to do this, and I talked about this at some point in the past where, some people just have like such an easier time, such a talent, I guess, for like documenting and filming themselves. And like this doesn't come as easily to me. And so like on a day like Wednesday, like, what's supposed to be today's video, I could have taken advantage of how crappy I was feeling and document that, because I think it would also be interesting for me to see and be able to get a different perspective after the fact. Because when you're in the middle of it, it's such a tornado of emotions that it's very difficult to think clearly about any one thing. And so this is almost like keeping a diary, in a way, to be able to look back on and gain a little perspective, just gain a little perspective. So I keep thinking about, like, I should have done that, but again, I was feeling so miserable that I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Anytime that I thought, because it's not just the one thing, it's like, oh, I'm so miserable because I'm a little hungry or I'm a little cravey and I want to eat the things that I want to eat and I can't eat them. And it's okay, well, it's so much more violent than that. You feel like your world is ending. You feel like nobody wants to watch this. I'm going to sound like a whiny bitch. And, people are going to tear me apart in the comments because, and they're going to tell me everything that I'm doing wrong and blah, 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 blah. And it's difficult to overcome that. And in that moment, and I want to, because I want to be able to document. Those parts are so important. Again, I go back to this. It's so important to be able to look back. Like, those are the difficult parts of this mentally. Figuring out what to eat. Whatever. There are multiple ways of going about this, of losing weight and getting healthy and all of that stuff, right? But how do we overcome those very specific? If you eat these foods, then you're going to lose weight. Yeah, and why, if I feel like I might want to kill myself if I have to eat that shit again, type of thing. I'm being a little dramatic for just, to make the point. But, so again, Wednesday was tricky. I ended up, eating that stuff, and still had plenty of veggies and chicken and a little bit of rice, and for the most part, checked the, went through the process, weighed everything, counted the macros and calories and stuff. Just, again, getting a real sense, a real feel for, what the nutritional value of the foods that I'm eating are. And then, the rest of Wednesday really was crappy. I was basically useless all afternoon. And then for dinner, I ended up getting like a craving that was like, actually, I guess, a good craving to have. I now remember what happened. So for lunch, I got chicken, some vegetables, a little bit of rice, but then I also got a chorizo, which is, if you don't know what a chorizo is, there are different kinds of the Latin world, but in Argentina, it's like a fat and stubby sausage link, and or sausage, I guess, not really link, but well, you know what I mean. Yeah, like a chorizo, like a hot dog, like a sausage. And I wanted scrambled eggs with mushrooms and chorizo. And I thought, great. Of course, because like we've talked about before, the problem is that there's a part of my brain that will look at anything other than having like the most, and even then, it doesn't matter if we're having one type of a diet or another, or we're eating one thing or another thing. It'll always find something to nitpick about. And so, but I said, okay, well, chorizo is still, fat and protein. And of course, my brain was telling me, well, it's the wrong kind of fat and protein. You should be having blah, blah, blah. But again, trying to worry about one thing at a time. And, that's part of the work that we're doing mentally, emotionally, to deal with this. And so I ended up going, I got some mushrooms, I got some chorizo, a little bit of cheese, and I made like scrambled eggs with chorizo and mushrooms and cheese. It was good. But yeah, it was definitely a tough day mentally, because it should be so easy. And this is the thing that kills me. In the same way that I don't, let's see, I don't have an alcohol addiction. I don't have a drug addiction of any kind. And so I don't have a problem not drinking or not doing drugs. None, I like beer, I like wine, but Well, I could go without drinking. Like if somebody said, you can never drink again. Fine. Not the end of the world for me. It really isn't. Or, drugs, like it's not a problem for me. And so I think about people who struggle with alcoholism or any kind of drug addiction, and I think, fuck, that sucks. And I think about how easy life for me is in that way. Just breeze through life. And thinking about not drinking alcohol does not take 1 ounce of energy out of me. No problems, ever. And there are people who go through life who are the same way about food. It just doesn't do anything for them in that way. But for me, fuck, it is hard. I am, fully addicted to something. Probably the sugar, combination of the sugar and the fat and the sodium and, all of these things. But it is hard, and every day is a fucking struggle. Every day is a battle. Every single day. And especially like right now that we're trying to cut out sugar again, and I did have, I had some soda at some point last week. I had some pastries and stuff, like things with a lot of sugar in them and fat, and so it is a struggle every single day. It is hard. And so that's basically the battle. This is what we're fighting. And so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to document better, especially those days that are bad. Because tomorrow, so Thursday, tomorrow for you guys, yesterday for me, was also bad. It was also really bad. And so let's leave it at this for now. I hope, again, that hearing about my experience is helpful to you, because I know that for a lot of us, it's not necessarily about figuring out, sometimes it's not about figuring out, you should do this or you should eat that, but it's about overcoming some of the mental health aspects of this. And those are very real. So thank you guys again for hanging with me. I'll see you tomorrow.